The moment I stepped out that taxi in front of the house I'd lived in for over 30 years on Maplewood Avenue, my son Jamal suddenly stepped in front of the door, eyes sliding away from mine. And then he said it. The words that ripped my heart wide open. Mama, you can't come in here no more. This house, it ain't yours anymore. I went still. 3 weeks in the hospital fighting a heart failure that almost took me out, and I kept believing that if I could just make it back home, I'd get to hold my child, hear his voice, feel him soothe me like he used to. But what waited for me at that front door was betrayal cold sharp and coming from my own blood. And if you ever wondered what a mother does when she's pushed all the way to the edge of her pain, keep listening to my story. And tell me, what city are you listening from? I want to know who I'm speaking to in the middle of this storm. I remember it clear as day, the strange feel of the asphalt under my feet as I stepped out of the taxi. The early evening breeze on Maplewood Avenue felt a little colder than usual, drifting through the street I'd called my way home for over 30 years. But today, everything felt different. Not because I had just spent 3 weeks in the hospital fighting for my life, but because something heavy, something dark was crawling up the back of my neck with every breath I took. A mother's instinct was whispering to me, no, warning me that whatever waited on the other side of that door was worse than any IV needle, any heart monitor, any long night in the ICU. I pulled my worn coat closer around my shoulders, the discharge papers in my pocket crackling with movement. The soft scent of jasmine from my garden drifted toward me, the same scent that used to mean peace, safety, home. But what I saw at the front door made my heart threaten to stop all over again. Jamal was standing there, my only son, the baby I held the day he came screaming into this world, in a little hospital outside Atlanta. The child I raised alone after his daddy passed, the boy who used to cling to me every night because he was scared of the dark. The one who once whispered, Mama is my home. Forever, but today, he wouldn't even look at me. He stood blocking the doorway like a stranger, hoodie pulled low shoulders, stiff, his gaze sliding off me, like he was scared the truth would shatter if he looked too long. Jamal, I called, my voice shaking like it did on the night I almost died in that hospital bed. He finally lifted his head, and in that split second, I knew something was terribly, terribly wrong. The eyes that used to love me, trust me, need me, they were gone. All that was left was something cold, distant, like a door he'd locked from the inside. And then he said the cruelest sentence I have ever heard in my life, a sentence that crushed 30 years of love, sacrifice, and devotion in one breath. Mama, you can't live here no more. This house, it ain't under your name anymore. For a moment, I thought I misheard him. My mind was still foggy from medication, from weakness, from everything. But Jamal didn't stumble. He said it slow, he said it steady, like he'd been rehearsing it. What did you just say? I asked, my voice cracking like the old paint on the porch door frame. Jamal swallowed hard, looking over my shoulder like he was waiting for someone to step in. And someone did. Alyssa, his wife, walked out the door. Her beige dress clung tight to her body makeup, sharp as glass. Behind her came her parents, the Hendersons' faces lifted with the smug confidence of folks who believe they belong somewhere more than the person who actually built it. Alyssa crossed her arms, gave me that half smirk I never liked. We think it's best if you don't make this complicated, Miss Parker. Miss Parker, not Mom, not Isabella, not even Miss Bella, like she used to pretend to call me when she wanted something. She addressed me like a stranger. She meant to. That alone felt like a slap. I looked at the three of them. There were new suitcases plans I'd never seen before. A Bluetooth speaker humming music through the living room window. My house, the home my husband and I built with our own hands, already looked like someone else's playground. I turned to Jamal. You let them live in my house while I'm still lying in a hospital bed. Jamal's jaw tightened. Shame flickered across his face, but something or someone crushed it out just as fast. Mama, it ain't that simple, he whispered. Alyssa cut in quick as a knife. Jamal, don't get emotional. She'll use it against you. I inhaled sharply like I'd swallowed ice. This house was paid for with my money. With your daddy's money, I said, clinging to the truth like a lifeline. Alyssa let out a soft laugh. Not anymore. Jamal has the power of attorney you signed before your hospitalization. Everything's been processed. I froze. Power of attorney, I never signed anything like that. I could barely hold a pen when they rushed me in. But before I could speak, Mr. Henderson stepped forward, a stack of papers in hand. Here, this is your signature, isn't it? I looked at it. The letters trembled, shaky, like the handwriting of someone gasping for breath, fighting for consciousness. It was my signature, but not a signature I gave willingly. I remembered that moment before the blackout, my chest squeezing, nurses shouting, someone shoving papers in front of me saying, this is just consent for a treatment and insurance. Sign here. I was dying. I didn't read a word. I signed. And that signature, I was now being used to steal everything I ever had. Air left my lungs all at once. A sharp pain shot through my chest, not from the heart condition, but from betrayal. I turned to Jamal again, searching, begging for the last bit of the boy I raised. You knew, baby. You knew they did this? Jamal didn't answer right away. His eyes watered, but he stepped back toward Alyssa like she was the only anchor he had. That was the moment I understood. I lost. I who raised him with tired hands and sleepless nights lost to people who had never given him a damn thing. Alyssa looked me up and down like she was appraising a used object. We've already moved in. You can take what's in those boxes. The rest belongs to the new homeowners. Hope you understand. That wasn't a suggestion. That was an eviction. I followed her gaze to the side of the garage. Boxes packed neatly, my clothes, my documents, my kitchen tools, all stuffed into cartons like I was some homeless woman being cleared off a sidewalk. My voice cracked open on its own. You're doing this to me? Right after I almost died, no one answered. The wind pushed through the porch, nudging the old swing my husband installed when Jamal was 5. A sharp pain twisted inside my chest, not physical, but the humiliation of a mother thrown out of her own home. I bent down and picked up a picture frame that had slipped from one of the boxes. Jamal, 10 years old, holding his first basketball trophy. Me beside him, smiling so wide it hurt just to look at it now. My hands trembled around the frame. My baby. I whispered, but Jamal didn't hear. Or maybe he chose not to. Mr. Henderson folded his arms. You should go, Miss Parker. We'd hate to call the police. The police? To drag me out of my own house? I almost laughed at the cruelty. Almost. But the only thing left inside me was darkness. I straightened my back, slow, deliberate. I closed the frame and slipped it into my bag. It was the only thing that mattered. All right, I said, calm enough to scare even myself. You'll regret this, every one of you. Alyssa smirked. We'll see. I didn't say another word. I dragged my boxes away one by one, each step grinding against the pieces of my breaking heart. When the taxi pulled away from Maplewood Avenue, I looked back at the house through the blur of the window. The house I painted every summer. The house where my husband died in my arms. The house that held a lifetime of memories. The lights were on, but not for me. I clutched the photo frame tight. My eyes were no longer soft, no longer confused. They were hard, sharp, awake. They stole my house, stole it with lies, with greed, with the signature I scribbled while slipping out of consciousness. But what they didn't know, Isabella Parker ain't the kind of woman you bury. I whispered to myself, not a hope, not a wish, but a vow. I'm gonna take back everything. Even if I gotta stand alone against the whole damn world. The taxi stopped in front of the cheap little hotel at the end of the street. I pulled my boxes out of the car, each step feeling so heavy, as if my body had aged 10 years in just a few hours. The front desk clerk looked at me with a cautious stare. The kind you give a homeless woman trying to find a place to hide for the night. I didn't blame them. With my tangled hair, my worn-out coat, my shaky posture. Even I barely recognized myself. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window, watching the streetlights stretch across the pavement like a long, tired ribbon of pale yellow. My heart felt empty. No anger, no tears, just loss. When the morning light finally slipped through the curtain, my phone buzzed. On the screen was the only name that could have kept me from falling apart right then, Gloria. My friend from way back in high school. The woman who'd watched me get married, watched Jamal be born, Watched my husband die, the only person I trusted enough to let inside my heart. I picked up my voice rough, Gloria. There was a 2-second silence. Then her voice came through firm, sharp, and full of fury. Isabella, I just heard what happened. Where are you? Tell me now. No soft condolences, no. Are you okay? Gloria ain't that type. She's the kind of woman who sees a fire and instantly reaches for a bucket of water or a hammer, depending on the situation. I'm at Maple Inn, I whispered. I'm on my way. Not even 20 minutes later, I heard Gloria's heels snapping down the hallway, each step like a verdict. When she reached my door, those sharp eyes of hers did the first thing they always do, scanned me from head to toe like she was reading a crime report. Lord have mercy, Isabella. Did you like this? She exhaled. I didn't answer. I just opened the door wider. She set her bag on the table, crossed her arms, and looked at me for a long, long moment. Then she said only one thing. Start from the top. Every detail. I drew a deep breath and told her everything that happened yesterday. Jamal, Alyssa, the Henderson family, the power of attorney, papers, the boxes, the insults, every word. Gloria didn't blink. And when I got to the part about Jamal kicking me out, her jaw tightened so hard I could hear her teeth grind. That boy done lost his damn mind, she muttered, more hurt than angry. When I mentioned the paperwork, she shot up from her chair. Bring it here. I handed her the stack I'd shoved into my coat pocket. She read each page slow, careful. When she hit the last page, her eyes sharpened. Isabella, this ain't regular power of attorney. This is durable power of attorney, what folks use to control your finances and property when you're not considered capable of managing them. My stomach dropped. You mean, if they made you sign this while you were having a heart attack, barely conscious, they could make it look legit. But it ain't legal, she emphasized every word. I sank into the chair. It felt like an invisible hand squeezing my heart. Gloria continued. You remember who handed you these papers? I'm not sure. There were a lot of people, a nurse, a young man in a white shirt. I thought they were hospital staff. Gloria frowned. Let me check something. She grabbed her laptop, sat on the edge of the bed, and started typing fast. So fast her fingers blurred. What are you looking for? I asked. Your bank activity? You remember your email password? I nodded and logged in. Seconds later, she opened my bank notifications. Her eyes widened. Isabella, you need to brace yourself. I froze. Then your accounts, they've been drained. I jumped up. What? She spun the laptop toward me. Transaction everywhere. All during the 3 weeks I lay in that hospital bed. $5,000, $10,000, $8,000, $12,000. Then a $60,000 transfer to some company I'd never heard of, Sterling Investment Properties LLC. The whole world tilted. I didn't do this, I stammered. I know you didn't. Gloria squeezed my hand. Isabella, you are the victim of a coordinated financial scam. A scam. Coordinated, organized. I shook my head. No, Jamal. He couldn't. Gloria put a hand on my shoulder. Jamal is weak, easily swayed, but he ain't the mastermind. This came from his wife's family. My nails dug into my palms so hard I felt pain shoot up my arms, and that pain somehow kept me steady. Gloria pressed on. That company. Your money went to a real estate firm. I'm checking it. She opened more tabs, scanned sites, cross-checked addresses. 10 minutes later, she looked up, fear and anger flickering behind her eyes. Isabella, this is a whole operation targeting elderly homeowners. My heart hammered. They pick older people with property who live alone. They use family, children, in-laws to get close. Then they use fake papers, fake authority, and they take everything. Your name, your signature, your home, I whispered. So they planned this. Alyssa, her parents. Even Jamal Gloria nodded slowly. Not Jamal, not fully, but he knew more than he should have. I closed my eyes, and for the first time, tears slid down my cheeks. Not for the money, not for the house, but for Jamal. Gloria sat beside me, her voice softer now. Isabella, you gotta be strong. They didn't just take you home, they took your identity, your accounts, your signature. And if you ain't careful, they could take your life. I met her eyes. What do I do? Her expression hardened, sharp, determined. We fight. I blinked. Fight, yes. She stood. You worked in banking 20 years. I'm a civil and commercial attorney, and the person I'm about to call, they're the missing piece. She dialed fast. Agent Rodriguez, this is Gloria Turner. I have a case the FBI needs to review immediately. Unauthorized transfers, forged authority, coercion, property seizure. Yes, we have evidence. And a living victim. I stared. You called the FBI? Gloria smirked. When you're up against an organized family, you bring organized firepower. For the first time since I lost everything, I felt a rope pulling me back from the edge. But Gloria wasn't done. Tomorrow we hit the county office and the land registry. I want to see exactly where they broke the law. There's always a crack, and I will find it. As she gathered her things, the documents scattered on the table looked chaotic, messy, overwhelming. But somewhere in that chaos, I finally saw a path. At the door, Gloria turned and said, Isabella, I know you're hurting, but don't let that pain soften you. Let it sharpen you. I couldn't speak. I just hugged her tight. In her arms, I felt the few things I still had left in this life truth, and a friend who refused to let me drown. When she left, I looked out the window again. The streetlights were still dim, still lonely, but I wasn't lost in them anymore. I whispered, tomorrow, I start taking my life back. The next morning, when I woke up in that cold, stiff hotel room, the first ray of sunlight slipped through the curtain and stung my eyes. But instead of that heavy, suffocating sadness I'd carried for days, there was something else inside me now. The feeling of a woman about to walk into a fight she cannot lose. I looked at myself in the mirror. Dark circles, dry lips, the marks of exhaustion carved into my face. But behind all that was something I hadn't seen in a long, long time. A gaze hard as steel, sharp enough to cut, and carrying a kind of determination that could scare even me. I'm not that woman who got thrown out anymore. I whispered Gloria's words from last night. I'm the woman who's going to take it all back. Just as I finished tying my hair, my phone buzzed. Gloria, I'm downstairs. Bring every document. I took a long breath, gathered the stacks of papers we'd sorted the night before, and stepped out of that little hotel room, like stepping out of the cocoon of who I used to be. We drove to the Kingsborough County Land Registry office, a big old red brick building, always packed with tired people and quiet anger. And the moment we stepped inside, Gloria shifted. Her eyes sharpened. Her walk turned firm. Her whole presence snapped into place like a lawyer stepping onto the battlefield. Isabella, we're not begging today, she said under her breath. We're here to get the truth. I nodded. Inside the records room, we requested every detail tied to my house ownership history, transactions, transfer filings. The clerk handed us a thick file. Gloria flipped through page after page until she hit page 9, then she froze. Hell no. I leaned in to see where her finger was pointing. New registered owners, Jamal Parker and Alyssa Henderson. Date of transfer, the week I was in the ICU, day 11. I felt my pulse pounding in my ears. Gloria took a picture of the page. No way they pushed this through that fast without someone helping them inside the system. A company, an entity, somebody with reach. She turned the page, and this time both of us went silent. Processing company, Sterling Investment Properties, LLC. The same name tied to that $60,000 that vanished from my account. A chill ran through me, not from fear, but from the cold realization that every puzzle piece was sliding into place. Gloria opened her laptop and pulled up the state business registry. Isabella, look. The company's record appeared founded 6 years ago, registered as a private real estate investment firm. Director Raymond Henderson. My stomach dropped. Raymond Afif, Alyssa's father, Gloria nodded slowly. And look at the list of properties they've acquired. She scrolled. My body went numb. A long list of addresses filled the screen, almost all from old neighborhoods full of elderly homeowners. One line at the bottom hit like a hammer: 34 houses acquired in 5 years. 28 belonged to people aged 55 and older. 23 were obtained shortly after the owner was hospitalized or suffered a health emergency. My hands clamped onto the edge of the table. "Oh my God," I whispered. "They're hunting the elderly." Gloria nodded, voice dropping low. "Not hunting, targeting. This is a full-blown acquisition scheme. They wait until homeowners are vulnerable, lean on family members for access use confusion during medical treatment, and seize control of the property." I fell back into the chair, my mind spinning. Everything that happened to me wasn't random, wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a plan, a setup, a calculated hunt. Gloria pointed at another line. "Look at this, Isabella." I leaned closer. Sterling Investment filed for a zoning change request in the Maplewood area of my neighborhood. My breath hitched. So it means if they collect enough houses on that block, they can convert the whole area into a commercial development. Triple, maybe quadruple the profit. Your house was just one square in a much bigger board. My stomach twisted. I thought about the old neighbors on Maplewood, the widow at the end of the block, the retired man who grew roses, the elderly couple who sold their house 2 years ago. I thought they moved to be closer to family. Now I wasn't so sure. My pain wasn't unique, not at all. "We have to tell them," I said, voice trembling but firm. "They need to know their targets." Gloria placed a hand on my shoulder. "We will. But first, we need proof. And more importantly, we need to know how deep Jamal got pulled into this." My heart cracked at the sound of his name. Painful, sharp, impossible to ignore. Gloria looked at me, reading the storm inside me. "I don't think he meant to hurt you, but I do think he knows more than he ever said." I exhaled shakily. "That's what terrifies me most, Gloria. Not knowing how much of him I can still trust." She didn't answer. Instead, she closed her laptop and stacked the documents neatly. "We need everything on Raymond. He's the key." That afternoon, we went to the county office to pull his civil records. As Gloria predicted, he'd been named in several mortgage fraud and financial misconduct cases, and every single one had been dismissed or dropped for lack of evidence. Smart, Gloria muttered. "Men like him never get their hands dirty. They orchestrate from behind the curtain." I swallowed hard. Could he have ties in the hospital? The day I signed those papers, I remember some man in a white dress shirt. Gloria's expression tightened. "That's exactly the angle we need to check. If he has someone inside that hospital, he's done this before." A shiver ran up my spine. "Gloria," I whispered, "this is bigger than I ever imagined." Her answer made my whole body go cold. "Yes, and that's exactly why we're not stopping." We got back to the hotel around 6 p.m. The sky had darkened, and the cars on the street glowed under their yellow headlights like a winding river of light. I sat at the little hotel desk, staring at the files spread across it. Every page was a confession Jamal was manipulated. Alyssa was a pawn, Raymond was the puppeteer, and I was just one name on a long list of victims. Gloria placed a hot cup of coffee in front of me. "We have a plan." I lifted my head. "What plan? Tomorrow we go to your house?" I froze. "No." "Gloria, they'll call the police." "Good." Her voice was terrifyingly calm. "Police reports become evidence. FBI loves paper trails. The more official documents we collect, the stronger our case." I swallowed hard. A part of me was afraid, terrified, but another part, burning bright, wanted the confrontation. "And tomorrow afternoon," she went on, "we go to the hospital. I want the hallway footage from the day you were admitted. I want to identify who handed you those papers." My breath caught. Do I have the strength for all this, Gloria?" She looked at me for a long moment. Then she smiled, soft, powerful, full of the kind of love only a lifelong friend could give. "Isabella, you survived a heart failure. You survived being thrown out by your own son. You are stronger than you even know." I looked at her and felt something settle inside me. She was right. There was no going back. I had to keep moving. Not just for my home, my money, my name, but for Maplewood, for the people who might be next, and for Jamal. Whether or not I could save him, I had to try. I placed my hand on the file and tightened my grip. Gloria, tomorrow we start. She nodded. Tomorrow we break the silence. That night I looked out the window again. The same long line of yellow streetlights stretched across the road, but this time they felt like quiet soldiers standing with me. I closed my eyes and whispered, Raymond Henderson, you picked the wrong woman to mess with. The next morning I woke up before my alarm. Not because I'd slept well, truth is I barely slept at all, but because there was this low buzzing current running through me like my body already knew. Today was a day I had to survive. I put on my coat, tied my hair back, then looked in the mirror one last time. The woman staring back at me was no longer the one who'd had her house taken, her bank accounts emptied, and her faith in her own child shattered. She was someone else now, someone getting ready to take it all back. At exactly 8 a.m., Gloria showed up at the hotel door. She walked in with that steady look on her face, the look of a lawyer who knows she's standing on the right side of the line. Isabella, we're not just going to look at the house today, Gloria said. Today, we're going to make them slip up for the first time. I nodded. My heart was pounding, but it wasn't fear. I was ready. We parked 2 houses down from mine. From a distance, my house sat quietly in the morning light, like it was still the same peaceful home I'd spent years protecting. But I knew better. Inside those walls were traps, lies, and a family waiting to turn my life into profit. Gloria set her hand on my shoulder. Come on, we need to face them. I drew in a deep breath and stepped out of the car. With every step, my heart beat faster. With every breath, old pain flared up again, but I didn't stop. When we reached the door, I didn't even get a chance to knock. The door flew open. Alyssa stood there, eyes narrowing the second she saw Gloria beside me. What are you doing here? She asked, her voice cold as metal. Gloria answered without missing a beat. We're here to inspect my client's property. Alyssa let out a sharp laugh. Client, this isn't her house anymore. Gloria didn't flinch. Until the court says otherwise, she has every right to see it. For a moment, Alyssa's face went pale. She turned her head and yelled inside Jamal, Your mom is here again. The word mom stabbed straight through me, but the sting faded as soon as Jamal stepped out, hesitant eyes dodging mine. Mom, this isn't a good time. It's not because you don't want it to be, I said quietly. It's because somebody doesn't want me here. Alyssa bit her lip, but Jamal stayed silent. Gloria cut, and her voice hard as steel. We're going inside, that's a lawful right. And before they could answer, she stepped in. I followed. My house was no longer my house. The paintings I'd hung with my own hands were gone. The armchair my husband used to sit in wasn't there anymore. The rug I'd bought for our 20th anniversary had disappeared like it never existed. In their place were their things, loud colors, cold lines, flashy and lifeless. I went still. Before the ache could choke me, Gloria squeezed my hand like she was reminding me, Stay sharp, focus, Isabella. We're here for clues, not for heartbreak. I nodded. We walked deeper into the living room, and that's when he appeared, Raymond Henderson, the man behind all of this. He came down the stairs, adjusting his tie, eyes sliding from Gloria to me, full of smug satisfaction. I hear we have guests, he said. Gloria stepped forward. Mr. Raymond, we're reviewing all documents attached to this house. And we have reason to believe the transfer process is seriously flawed. Raymond laughed. And who exactly are you supposed to be? Some bargain bin attorney from nowhere? Gloria didn't rise to it. Her reply was clean sharp. I'm the one who helped the state win 12 financial fraud cases in the last 7 years. He paused. I saw his fist clench for just a second. Gloria kept going. And right now, I'd like to know why Sterling has been repeatedly purchasing homes from owners who just so happen to be in medical crisis. Raymond narrowed his eyes. I'm not obligated to answer that, good Gloria said. Because if you lie, that'll be on record too. And the FBI will be very interested. His face drained a little, then hardened again. You shouldn't be stirring things up. This house has been sold. It's done. I stared straight at him, and my voice came out sharper than I expected. No, this story is just getting started. While Gloria kept him busy arguing point by point, I slowly stepped back. Something tugged at me, pulled me toward the back of the house, toward a little door only someone who'd lived here long would remember, the one that always clicked clack when someone passed through it. I walked over and saw it slightly open. My legs trembled. I didn't want to go down there. But something deeper than fear pushed me forward. The door opened to the basement stairs. I went down one step at a time, the old wood creaking under my weight. The air was cold, damp, heavy. And then I heard voices. Not one. Two. Raymond and Jamal. I froze hard, slamming against my ribs. Raymond's voice came first, low and threatening. You need to keep your mother under control. If she makes too much noise, we're going to have a problem. Jamal's reply was shaky, small. I didn't think it would go this far. I just wanted to help Alyssa with the debt. Raymond's tone sharpened. There's no going back now. The papers are signed. You stand with your wife's family. That's it. Jamal's voice cracked. I don't want my mom getting hurt any more than she already is. Tears spilled from my eyes before I could stop them dripping onto the wood. I had to press my hand against the wall just to stay standing. Jamal continued. I didn't think she'd be thrown out like that. I didn't want that. Raymond cut him off, cold as ice. What you want doesn't matter. What matters is keeping the forged authorization quiet. If she finds out the man who gave her those papers works for me, what do you think happens next? My hands started to shake. The man in my hospital room that day was his. Not a hospital staff, not some random clerk. They had planned this while I was fighting to stay alive. My knees went weak. I gripped the rail so hard my fingers hurt. Raymond kept going. As for the money from her accounts, relax. You'll get your cut. I almost collapsed on the steps. Gloria was right. They didn't just take my house. They took my life and tried to sell it in pieces. Jamal whispered, a voice cracking. I just want my mom safe. Raymond let out a harsh laugh. Worry about yourself. When this blows up, the first one they'll arrest is you. It felt like someone drove a knife straight through my chest. Jamal, my baby, was being used and threatened. I swallowed, my tears turned, and started to climb back up. But a small creak under my foot made the door shift. Raymond snapped his head up. Who's there? Panic shot through me. I turned to run up the stairs, but bang, the door flew open. A bright flashlight hit me in the face. FBI, don't move. I froze. Behind me, Raymond shouted in pure panic. No, this is impossible. Who tipped you off? An agent grabbed his arm, snapping cuffs on his wrists. Gloria appeared behind them, breathing hard, eyes blazing. Isabella. Don't be afraid. I called them. Everything spun around me. Raymond was in handcuffs. Jamal was being held back. Shocked, scared, his eyes locked on me like he was begging me to save him. Alyssa stood frozen on the stairs, one hand over her mouth. I wanted to speak, but my throat closed up. One of the agents placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. Mrs. Parker, you're safe now. But I didn't feel safe. I felt torn right down the middle. One half shattered by betrayal. The other half breaking for Jamal, the child I loved more than my own life, who'd been dragged into this dirty game. As they helped me back up from the basement, I looked around the house. Each wall felt like it was whispering memories of the years I'd spent here. But now, none of it was mine. And then, a thought flashed through my mind like lightning tearing the sky. There's more to this story than I know, much more. And I don't know how much more pain my heart can take. If it were you, would you have the courage to listen to your child tell the whole truth after everything I just heard in that basement? Do you think Jamal deserves forgiveness, or do you think every bit of this is on him? Drop a comment and tell me. I want to know which side your heart would stand on. I don't remember how I even walked out of that house. While the police and FBI led Raymond, Alyssa, and a few others away for questioning, I just stood there like a ghost. Everything had happened too fast, too loud, like a storm tearing through the last pieces of what used to be my life. It wasn't until Gloria helped me into the car that I noticed my own hands shaking uncontrollably. I looked down at my chest, feeling a sharp numbness spreading up my neck. Isabella breathed. Deep breath. Gloria set her hand pressed gently against my back. I tried. The cold air burned my throat, but it still couldn't quiet the pain rising inside me. Gloria. I heard everything. Everything Raymond said in the basement. I heard Jamal. My voice cracked like glass, shattering on tile. Gloria squeezed my shoulder. You have to keep your head clear. We still have a lot to do and a lot of truth left to uncover. I turned to her, my eyes aching. Worse than this, Gloria didn't answer. The way she looked at me, it was like she was bracing me for something even heavier. The local FBI office was tucked inside a plain gray building on the edge of town, so ordinary that if you weren't paying attention, you'd think it was just a tax office or some city department. But the moment we stepped inside, the air changed, thick, disciplined, controlled. A young agent led us through 3 layers of security. I tried to stay composed, but my legs felt like they were weighed down with iron. Gloria walked half a step ahead of me the whole time, like a shield I couldn't see but could feel. They took us into a small room, dim white light, cold metal table, 2 chairs facing each other. I sat. Gloria set the file bag on the table. A few minutes later, a woman in a black suit walked in carrying a thick stack of files. Her face was serious, but her eyes weren't cold. They were the eyes of someone who'd seen too many victims. I'm Agent Rodriguez, she said, shaking my hand, her grip firm but warm. Mrs. Parker, I've gone over the preliminary report. She opened the file and began. We suspect your case isn't just about property fraud. This may be part of a larger operation involving medical fraud, identity theft, and financial coercion. I shut my eyes, my chest clenched tight. Medical fraud, identity theft, financial coercion. Each word landed like a fresh blow. Gloria spoke up. She needs to know everything, no sugarcoating. Rodriguez nodded, then flipped to another page. We reviewed the hospital footage from when you were admitted 3 weeks ago. A man in a white dress shirt, wearing a fake badge, brought you documents to sign. He was not hospital staff. He's an associate of Raymond Henderson, one of the organizers of this scheme. A chill spread through my body. And the hospital allowed that to happen? I asked, voice barely there. Rodriguez shook her head. They didn't know. But he had help in the administrative department. That person was arrested this morning. I struggled to get the next question out. Did they do anything to my treatment? Rodriguez glanced at Gloria, then back at me. We're still investigating, but there are signs that your heart medication was altered just enough to keep you in the ICU longer. I fell back against the chair, mouth open, but no sound came out. They had kept me in that hospital bed on purpose. They'd used my life as a timer so they could finish stealing everything. Oh, God, I whispered. They really did that to me. Gloria took my hand and squeezed Isabella. I'm so sorry. I knew this would hurt, but you have to hear it. Rodriguez continued. We also found money transfers from Sterling Investment into the account of a nurse who worked your shift. She's confessed. I trembled. So, they really wanted me in that hospital. To give them time to complete the transfer? Rodriguez nodded. Not just that. I looked at her, bracing for the next blow. 3 days before you were admitted, Raymond purchased a new life insurance policy. The beneficiary is... She paused because she knew this next part could break me all over again. Jamal Parker. I shuddered. My scalp tingled. My heartbeat went wild. Jamal, my son's name on a life insurance policy that I never agreed to. Tears spilled onto my hands. I don't believe he wanted me dead. I can't believe that. My voice crumbled. Rodriguez spoke gently. We don't think Jamal knew about the policy. Based on his initial statement, he was pulled into the financial side, not the medical side. There are strong signs he was threatened and manipulated by his in-laws. I covered my mouth with my hand. Part of me felt a strange relief that my son hadn't tried to profit from my death. But another part was still breaking because he did know, at least in part, that I was being used, robbed, cornered, and he didn't save me. Gloria whispered, Isabella, this pain isn't yours to carry as guilt. They did this, not you, but I still felt like I was going to come apart. Rodriguez went on. Now we get to the important part, Jamal's statement. I looked up. Where is Jamal in an interview room? He's requested to speak with you. I froze. Couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Isabella Gloria asked softly. Do you want to see him? I didn't know. I wanted to hold the child I'd carried inside me. And at the same time, I wanted to scream at the man who'd helped destroy my life. I took a long, shaky breath. Yes, I do. Interrogation room 4 was so cold I had to pull my coat tighter. When the door opened, I saw Jamal sitting there, hands clasped, shoulders hunched like a little boy waiting to be punished. He looked up. When his eyes met mine, it felt like someone shot straight through my heart. Mom, he said, voice rough, like he'd been holding that word in for years. I wanted to run to him, but my legs didn't move. I pulled out the chair and sat across from him, silent. Jamal swallowed hard. He was shaking, and for the first time in years, I saw my grown son cry like the little boy he used to be. If I talk, will you believe me? He asked. My voice felt like it was walking on broken glass. Just talk. Jamal wiped his face, then let his hands drop. I'm an idiot, Mom. I know that. I've known it since the day I fell for Alyssa. I wanted so bad to prove to her family I was good enough, strong enough. I wanted to be that man in their eyes, but then he sucked in a sharp breath. I got into debt, and they pulled me in deeper. I thought that if I helped them with the house, I'd get time to pay everything off. I told myself you'd be okay, that you'd understand. I didn't think they'd throw you out like that. I stared at him, no anger in my voice, no screaming, just a hollow kind of quiet. Mom, I messed up. I know, he choked out. But I didn't know they were messing with your meds. I didn't know about the insurance. I swear I didn't know they wanted you in that bed longer. Tears streamed down his face. Mom, I swear to you I never wanted you dead. I was just weak and stupid, and I let them control me. I exhaled hard, tears finally spilling from my own eyes. Jamal, why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you ask me for help? He dropped his head onto the table, his hands trembling. Because I was ashamed. I didn't want you to see that I wasn't the man you thought I was. I didn't want to see that look in your eyes. I stood up, walked around the table, and placed my hand on his shoulder. His whole body shook like he was a lost child again. Jamal, I never needed you to be a hero, I whispered. I just needed you to be my son. He broke. He sobbed out loud right there in that cold room. I wrapped my arms around him for the first time in years. And in that moment, I understood something. No matter how deeply he'd hurt me, the pain of what he had done still wasn't as sharp as the pain of seeing my child broken like that, caught between guilt and fear and regret. We stayed like that for a long time, a very long time, until Agent Rodriguez gently knocked and stepped in. Time's up. We need to continue the interview. I nodded. Jamal pulled away, eyes red and swollen. Mom, I'm going to tell them everything. I'll cooperate. Will you ever forgive me? I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just cupped his face in my hand and wiped his tears. Go, I said softly. Do the right thing. Jamal nodded and let the agents lead him out. When the door closed, I collapsed back into the chair. Gloria came over and held me. Gloria, I sobbed. I don't know how much more I can take. She hugged me tighter. You've taken more than anyone I've ever seen, she said quietly. But Isabella, you're still here, and that's exactly what makes you stronger than them. I closed my eyes. The pain, the truth, the love, the betrayal, they all blended together into a crushing weight on my chest. But underneath that weight, there was still a heartbeat. Weak, but there. And I knew one thing. This fight wasn't over yet. The next 3 days passed like a storm that refused to die. I was called in over and over again to give statements, sign confirmations, update medical records, verify bank documents. The FBI worked around the clock. Gloria ran back and forth between her law office and the federal building. And me, I was just trying not to fall apart. But there was something growing inside me, something I never expected to still have left, the endurance of someone who's had everything taken and still refuses to lie down. And today was the day I had to face it all. An emergency hearing at the county courthouse to decide whether to freeze the assets of Raymond Henderson and Sterling Investment. I sat in a small courtroom, the cold wooden bench pressing into my back. Light from the high windows spilled onto the floor in long yellow stripes. In front of me was the judge's bench. Behind me, I could hear the low murmurs of Maplewood residents, faces I'd known for decades. Many of them had been forced to sell their homes under strange circumstances, circumstances I now understood all too well. To my left, Gloria adjusted her gray suit and leaned in. "Today is just for asset freezing, not the full trial," she whispered. "But your testimony can shape the whole direction of this case. You ready?" I took a deep breath. "Yes, I have to do this not just for me." Gloria smiled. "That's exactly why I know you'll win." The courtroom door opened. Raymond was brought in, first hands cuffed. Alyssa walked behind him, face pale, eyes swollen from crying. Mrs. Henderson, Alyssa's mother, sat in the back row, her hands trembling. And Jamal. I saw my son being led in through a side door, reserved for witnesses. No handcuffs, but the shame on his face was almost heavier than chains. When his eyes found me, they were full of apology and the empty, hollow look of a man who knows he's broken everything. My heart clenched, but I didn't look away. My son had done wrong, but he was trying to make it right, and I had to stay standing so at least one of us wouldn't sink. The judge walked in, and the sound of the gavel echoed through the room. "We are here today to consider the motion to freeze the assets of the defendant Raymond Henderson and Sterling Investment Properties LLC, and to hear the testimony of the primary victim, Mrs. Isabella Parker." Hearing my name, I felt lightheaded. Mrs. Isabella Parker. My own name had never made me shake like that. I stood my legs wobbling for a second, but Gloria caught my hand. "Go, Isabella, you're not going up there alone." I walked to the witness stand. Dozens of eyes followed me. Jamal's eyes cut straight through me. Raymond's eyes burned with pure hatred, like I had betrayed him. I placed my hand on the Bible, took the oath, then looked straight at the judge. "Mrs. Parker," the judge said, "please tell the court what you have experienced." I drew in a long breath and spoke with a voice I had to gather from whatever pieces were left of me. I was thrown out of my home right after I was discharged from the ICU after 3 weeks in critical care. I was pressured into signing papers I didn't understand. My accounts were emptied. My son was manipulated. And the home I'd lived in for over 30 years, the home where I raised him, was taken by exploiting my weakness. Murmurs rippled through the room. I continued. But this did not just happen to me. I glanced back over my shoulder. Row after row of elderly faces stared back. People who had disappeared from Maplewood. People who'd moved out in the dead of night. People I'd once assumed left to be closer to family. Sterling has purchased over 30 homes from elderly owners while they were severely ill, hospitalized, or in crisis. Some never understood what they signed. Some never came back home. I paused. My voice began to shake, not from fear, but from anger. I am one of them, but I'm one of the lucky ones because I lived long enough to stand here and say this. Raymond shot up, shouting, "You're a liar!" Security grabbed him instantly. The judge banged the gavel and called for order. Gloria rose to her feet. "Your Honor, we'd like to submit our evidence." She handed over a thick file hospital security footage showing a strange man bringing me documents to sign. A copy of the power of attorney with my fingerprint from when I wasn't fully conscious. Bank statements showing the unauthorized withdrawals. Records of payments from Sterling to the hospital nurse. The illegal life insurance policy taken out in my name. And then Gloria looked at me before submitting the final document, evidence of cooperation from Jamal Parker, with the FBI confirming that Raymond threatened him. Behind me, I heard a sharp intake of breath. I looked over at Jamal. He sat with his head bowed, shoulders shaking. Raymond's eyes went wild as he yelled, "You turned on me." But Jamal didn't look up, didn't answer, didn't defend himself, didn't beg forgiveness. He just accepted it. And somehow that made me feel both shattered and strangely relieved. When my testimony ended, the judge sat in silence for a long moment. The whole courtroom felt like it had stopped breathing. Finally, he spoke. Based on the evidence presented, the court orders as follows. All assets of Sterling Investment are to be frozen. No property under the company's name may be sold, transferred, or encumbered. The defendant, Raymond Henderson, shall remain in custody pending trial for suspected financial fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to cause harm to the victim. All property purchases in the Maplewood area made by Sterling Investment are to be reviewed. And the property on Maplewood Avenue is to be temporarily restored to Mrs. Isabella Parker during the course of this investigation. I heard Gloria exhale in relief. Applause broke out from the back of the room like a wave crashing on shore. Some of the elderly residents began to cry. As for me, my vision blurred. My body felt weightless. I didn't know if I was crying or if I was just trying to breathe. I had my house back, at least for now, but to me, it wasn't just a house. It was proof that I could still stand after the world tried to grind me into dust. When the hearing ended, I stepped out into the hallway. The air from the ceiling vents blew down cold across my shoulders. Jamal stood a few feet away, no handcuffs, no cell, but the look in his eyes was heavier than any prison. "Mom," he said, taking a step closer, "I know. There's nothing I can say that makes this right, but I'm going to cooperate. I'm going to tell them everything. I'll take whatever sentence comes, and I'll accept whatever you decide I deserve." He dropped his gaze. I'm begging you, don't leave me." I looked at my son, the same boy I once held in my arms, once sang to sleep, once taught how to tie his shoes, once felt so proud of. He had hurt me more deeply than I ever thought possible. But now he was the one trying to pull himself out of the mud he'd walked into. I reached up and gently brushed his hair, back something I hadn't done in years. "Jamal, I'm not going to abandon you, but I can't pretend none of this happened either. It's going to take time, maybe a lot of time to heal what you broke. But I believe if you truly want to make this right, you'll find your way back to yourself." His throat tightened as he nodded. I pulled him into a hug. This time there was no sense of drowning in despair, only acceptance and a thin, fragile thread of hope. Gloria walked up, smiling softly. "Isabella, you did it." I looked at her. "No, Gloria, we did it," she laughed under her breath. "And we're still not done. The real trial is ahead. We still have the hospital, the other victims, the whole network to tear apart." I nodded. "I'm ready." And for the first time since this nightmare began, I knew that was the truth. 6 months have passed since the day that basement door swung open and exposed every lie, every crime, every betrayal I once thought I'd never survive. 6 months since I stood in court trembling, retelling every wound, every moment I was pushed to the bottom of despair. 6 months since the day I got my house key back, at a cost I know I'll carry for the rest of my life. And now here I am, standing inside this very house, my house, like someone who walked out of a war shaking but still alive. Early summer sunlight filters through the familiar window, catching tiny dust specks drifting in the air like memories that haven't settled yet. I set a small lavender pot by the steps. The same flowers my husband used to say can heal any heart if you let them. The iron gate clicks softly. Gloria walks in with that confident stride of hers, one hand holding lemonade, the other on her hip. "Isabella Parker." "I swear you don't know how to sit down and rest," she says, watching me plant the lavender, shaking her head, but her eyes are full of pride. I let out a small laugh, light as a breeze. "I almost lost everything, Gloria. Now I'm just learning how to breathe again." She hands me the lemonade and tilts my chin gently. You stood up out of rubble. You know that not everybody can do that. I don't answer. I just tighten my grip on the glass, reminding myself these hands are holding something that belongs to me, not something being taken away. The final verdict: Raymond Henderson, 27 years in prison. Alyssa, 8 years. The hospital staff involved arrested, fired, prosecuted. I sat in the courtroom as the sentences were read. No shaking, no tears, no rage, just closure. Raymond looked at me with eyes no longer cocky, just furious, like he couldn't believe he'd been taken down by the woman he thought was the weakest in the room. But I didn't stare back. I didn't need to carry even a grain of hatred with me. Justice isn't a victory dance. It's simply the truth being put back in its rightful place. After my case, the whole neighborhood seemed to wake up from a long, dark sleep. 17 houses were restored to their original owners. Elderly people who'd been tricked into signing away their homes received compensation. The FBI expanded the investigation across multiple counties. Maplewood, the little neighborhood I'd lived in for over 30 years, started breathing again. Mr. Henry is back to tending roses in his backyard. Mrs. Turner sits on her porch swing reading the morning paper like she always did. Kids are riding bikes across the sidewalks as if no shadows ever touched this place. And me, I watch all of it with a deep, quiet peace. Like reclaiming my home somehow helped save pieces of this street too. I read the full investigation report. Every line sent chills through me. Medication swapped. Treatment extended without medical necessity. A nurse paid to make sure I didn't leave ICU on schedule. A clerk slipping my medical files to Raymond, reading that I still don't know how I'm alive. Maybe God has his own way of keeping certain people standing just long enough to fight the battle they're meant to fight. They sent apology letters, but no letter can erase the nights I couldn't breathe because the meds they gave me were wrong. I didn't respond. I don't need their apologies. I needed the truth and I got it. But out of everything that happened, the thing that tore me the most was Jamal. My son had been lured, manipulated, pressured, fed on insecurities he'd hidden for years. He was wrong, he was weak, and he hurt me deeper than anyone else. But he turned himself in. He confessed everything. He refused to protect Raymond for even one more second. Because he cooperated, Jamal received probation, community service hours, and mandatory financial rehabilitation. The day he was sentenced, he came to me with trembling hands like the little boy who used to panic after bringing home a bad grade. Mom, I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want to start over. I want you to see me as a good person again. If not today, someday. I listened, my heart stretched thin. I couldn't hug him, not right then. I couldn't force what I didn't have yet. But I said what both of us needed to hear, Jamal. I'm not abandoning you, but what you did needs time to heal, and I'm willing to walk that road if you're willing to walk it too. He nodded, tears falling, and in that moment I knew my son was trying to become a better man. And sometimes that's enough hope for one lifetime. That evening with the sun dipping behind the trees out front, I stood in my kitchen, the same kitchen that once felt foreign, painted over, rearranged by people who didn't belong here. Now everything inside this room was placed by me. Every mug, every towel, every photo frame. I looked in the mirror at a woman with silver strands in her hair, eyes carrying the weight of too many tears. But alive, truly alive. The back door opened. Jamal stepped in, carrying a fresh rosemary plant. Mom, I thought the backyard could use a little more green, he said, offering a gentle smile. The soft smile I thought I had lost forever. I looked at the plant, then at him, no words, just a nod. We walked out back together. I showed him how to mix the soil, how to settle the roots, how much water to pour. The air was calm, the breeze smelled like cut grass, and the kind of peace we hadn't had in a long time. Mom, he whispered, hands still in the dirt, thank you for letting me come back. I rested my hand on his shoulder. My hand didn't shake anymore. Jamal, I never wanted you gone. And if you truly want to come home, I'll let you grow up this time. We stood there silent but steady. the wind carrying the sounds of a neighborhood finding itself again. That night, I walked through the halls of my house, touching each wall, each door frame, each little detail. This house had been stolen from me, but I took it back piece by piece. I stopped in front of my husband's picture. He was smiling softly, just like he always did. "We're okay now," I whispered. "Our home is safe again." The curtains fluttered as if he answered, and I smiled a smile I thought I'd lost on the very first day I was thrown out of this place. Maplewood is alive again. My son is trying to rebuild himself. I'm still here, still breathing, still living, still more whole than I ever imagined. And I know this much. This isn't just the end of a chapter. It's the beginning of the life I fought to reclaim with my own heart. 6 months after all the wreckage, I still find myself wondering, how does a person stand back up after being pushed off the edge by their own blood? How does a mother keep her heart from turning to stone when she watches her son get pulled into the dark? And how does a woman who has lost almost everything, her home, her money, her dignity, still choose to walk toward the light? I don't have a perfect answer. All I know is I survived. Maplewood came back to life, justice was served. Jamal is learning how to rebuild himself, and the house I fought for is no longer just a roof over my head. It's proof that even when the whole world turns its back on you, a heart that still believes in truth can save itself. Some wounds will never fully close. But every time I look at the little garden by my front porch, I know I didn't lose. And I believe whoever's listening to this, if you've ever been betrayed, abandoned, or pushed out of the place you belonged, you can rise too. If it were you, do you think you'd be strong enough to forgive and tough enough to keep moving forward? Leave me a comment. I want to hear what your heart has to say. And don't forget to follow the page so you won't miss the stories that dive deep into our pain and the ones that remind us how powerful a human soul can be when it chooses to rise again.